Hi, and welcome to PJ and the Beard. This is the 19 conversation series. This is episode 40 of An Hour of Distraction. Unfortunately, no guest today, but sometimes that's fun too. Pete Hickson in the house. Bright and early there in Australia. Brian Landreth checking in. Hey, Brian. And yeah, and Brian, I meant to text you back last night, but I was like getting dinner ready or something. And I do want to say, Brian said about like if you came back on the show doing like a thing about the blues jams or something, and he has me thinking maybe a double guest thing. I got some ideas turning. We'll talk about that some other time. Yeah. So that was the show. Have a great day.
That's right. Happy hump day. Peace out.
Brian, I'll hold up until the ads are over.
What are the ads today?
I don't know.
What is the infamous Siri and or Alexa been listening to? Let's talk about.
Right. Brian probably didn't even hear what I said because he's watching an ad.
Right.
Skip the ad. All right. So,
Paul Ewing.
Yeah, man. Dude, Paul, we still haven't heard from. Well, your boy was in the chat yesterday, but I haven't got an email yet. So I might have to email him. I might have to look up his email and try and email him because we need some guests. We're kind of in a. This happened like a week or two ago. I was like, we're done.
Right.
And then we got a bunch of guests. I'm like, okay, we can still do this. So I don't know. Anyway. Let's see. Where do you want to start?
We usually clip. Is that where we normally start?
Yeah, let's start. This pedal's goofy. Let's start with the pedal.
We've only done this 40 times. How would we not know?
I know, but the clip I think will lead to more conversation. The pedal, maybe not. So looking around at all the pedals and oh my gosh, there's so many pedals down here right now because of that Leslie series and the Tremolo series that's coming up. And just because we're idiots and buy a lot of pedals. So I picked like the most bizarre thing. Here's the pedal of the day.
Make yourself big because we want to see all of it in its glory.
You want to see this in its glory, and it's all of its glory. Here's the pedal of the day. Little piece of wood on the back. I like how the screws poke through the wood. That helps keep it in place.
Right.
2 jacks on the top. So what this is on my board at one time, I had a Nemesis delay from Source Audio, and I had the Dry Bell Vibe machine. And so the Dry Bell Vibe machine has you can plug in a switch to switch between fast and slow, or you can actually set up for a couple different things. I had it going between fast and slow. So that switch right there would switch it between fast and slow. And then on the Nemesis delay, you can use a, TRS cable. And you can set the tip or the ring to do presets. So the preset button, helpfully labeled preset, would switch between the available presets. So you could just kind of toggle through them. And then the tap button would would tap. And you can do all that on the pedal. But then that means you got to have the pedal up where you can reach it, and you got to like press one and hold it or something for, you have to turn it off and then press and hold it to flip through the settings, whatever. This just made it easier. So really bought some parts, went down to the local hardware store, bought an electrical junction box of some sort, put the 2 outs in, soldered the wires together, and it worked brilliantly. And I could put it kind of up near the front of the board and have everything else back in the back where I didn't need to reach it because there's a loop pedal there's a loop switcher, so I could turn those on and off with the loop switcher, but I could still change all the features with this. And have used it for a couple other applications, because it's just a tip ring cable coming out of the delay. So one of these controls the tip, one of these is the momentary I think they're momentary. And then you have the I guess that's called the latching pedal. I don't know. Where's Dave Barber when you need him?
Yeah. We try to say something to bring him out of hiding every show.
Right. So that's what it is. Spray paint it white. Right.
Yeah.
So the point was, I thought it was interesting that, you can spend $20-$30 to buy something similar, or maybe more in this case. Since then, I have also made where you buy like the little Hammond enclosure and just put one of these in. So now that I don't have both of those pedals, I just need to change the preset. So I have one of those little boxes that changes the preset. I made another one to change between the channels on the Astronomer, and it costs you next to nothing to build those yourself. So
Well, I want to expand on what you say, and I'm going to show you a bonus pedal, because when he showed me that, I happened to look to my right and found something. But, one thing is everyone's so short on enclosures these days. Maybe you could really be onto something there with using that as an enclosure.
The plastic box from the hardware store.
Yeah, it was funny. So Jason showed me that, and I said, that'd be funny. And then I looked over in my little pile of stuff here, and I found this kind of like a benign little like switcher, right? I'm sure it is a switcher for an amp. Maybe it came with one of the Mesas I had before. It's not branded Mesa, but it is branded. It's hilarious. It's branded MXR down here. And I quickly took the screws out, and it has all of the MXR innovations, stuff inside. And then
Show
there's
inside.
What's that?
No, the inside.
Yeah. So there's the really extensive inside with some initials. Like, it was QC'd by several people apparently. But I just thought, man, I wonder how much I could sell this enclosure for right now.
Right.
It's like script logo. It's funny. I'm sure it was from one amp, but anyway, it was just kind of funny when I looked over, and when I noticed it was MXR, I thought it was funny, but I'm amused by small things. So
have we been on longer than we thought? Because Stuart's here. Were we
I know.
Stuart here. Were we late?
We were a few minutes late yesterday. He had all the time in the world to come in and get a good seat, but I did. We'll get into the whole Dave Weiner thing in a little bit, but I just love the fact that he felt bad because he was having some audio issues, because he's got 3 or 4 different versions of his setup. So he felt bad that he went 3 minutes late to start the show, so he gave us a bonus 30 minutes. So that was an interesting exchange there. But
do we know anyone willing to fix a Boss DD5 delay, or is it worth the trouble? I guess it would depend on what's wrong with it. If it's just the connection to the switch or the jacks.
You want these?
Well, you could fix it by just sending him that one. So, I don't know. There's an amp guy. There's actually a local friend of ours that was building pedals for a while and was doing some nice stuff. He got like the top 5 reverb pedal, and like Reverb had done like a review of reverb pedals and gave him one of their top 5 pedals, and he just kind of quit doing it. But I don't know off the top of my head, Brian. It's too bad we don't know a pedal builder that hangs around that might.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody lurking
knows something about that. All right. Are we doing this clip of the day?
Yeah, you do the clip of the day where I put these screws back in, because these screws might be worth more than the pedal.
Let's trigger somebody here. Clip of the day. See if we can get anybody triggered. The title of the clip is stupid, but the clip isn't bad. So let's just watch a couple seconds of this. We try to keep them short because they don't sound that great, but it's hard to turn that one off too. What you don't see is when it gets back into like the full jam and back into the song. The whole ending is great. I love the smile on Josh Smith's face throughout too. That's 3 monster players up there.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, first of all, I was like, man, that Crocodile Dundee can really play guitar. But it was cool, like, about the third time around, because Tommy Emmanuel is a... This sounds really stupid to say, but I think he's a better acoustic player than electric. I mean, he's brilliant. But he kind of went into a little bag of tricks. It was cool. It's like third time around, he went into the thumb octaves and he played like he stole something there from Wes Montgomery. It was kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, it just because what he is on acoustic is so special that when he translates that to electric, sometimes I don't think it's on the same level as his acoustic playing. But man, he is ridiculous and he's super creative. But
he does kill it in his electric rhythm and stuff that he was playing in this. I was thinking because it was kind of like the song itself was kind of very funky,
and
so I'm not, I haven't dug deep into the Tommy Emmanuel, the whole there, but the stuff I have seen has been more like flat picking bluegrass kind of stuff,
right?
And I was really impressed with a lot of the stuff that he did in that. Like it was cool. The thing that so I say we get some people triggered. Joe Bonamassa, man, you bring up his name and people get triggered, and I hear all this. I see comments like every time his name comes up in a forum or somewhere, how like, oh, technically he's a great player, but he has no soul and he has no this, and he's just copying everybody else's. I can't say anything bad about his playing, man.
Nope.
The guy smokes. Like,
I don't begrudge him for his collection either.
Right. Well, that's a whole nother. I mean, there's a whole other topic, but he. I mean, I get what people are saying because I've never been really into like the real fast, flashy kind of stuff. On one hand, on the other hand, there's moments where he kind of breaks it down and plays some really, I think, soulful, cool stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing the tours that he's done. He really is trying to pass the torch, or to make sure people know who these blues players are. That a lot of the rock stuff was derived from. Like, so he does a lot of really cool stuff like that. I
mean, if you have the ability to cop other people's, like that. Because it's funny, like you see Warren Haynes playing with the Allman Brothers, and everybody's like, "Wow, Warren plays great stuff," and he tips his hat to Dwayne and tips his hat to the, it's a compliment that he can pull out some of their stuff. Or when he's doing like, he was doing a lot of like Jerry band stuff. He was touring, playing Jerry's guitar with like an orchestra. Then he tips his hat to Jerry and stuff. People compliment that. Right. And then when Joe does it, they're like, he's stealing from he's stealing Billy Gibbons and Robert.
It's hard to say, right? We've gone down the path. If I love using the Mount Rushmore analogy, and I don't do it well, but like I could tell you that 2 of the faces on Mount Rushmore of the most unnecessarily hated guitar players, John Mayer's face would be on that as well, and which that's come up several times in the context of PRS and the Silver Sky, right? Because Dave Weiner talked a little bit about it. Brian Ewald talked a little bit about it. We talked a little bit about it, you and I, when we were on the tour at the PRS factory. People just lose their minds. He's a good player.
Yeah. There's a particular person in one of the news groups that we watch that takes every opportunity he can to say how bad of a player is and how all the other players hate him, and anybody that's worth anything in the music industry thinks he's a terrible player. And he's talking about John Mayer. And
right.
Just absolutely, it's insane. It's ridiculous.
Here's the unofficial spur of the moment question. So if we had a Mount Rushmore, which there were 4 people on Mount Rushmore, so we've already got Bonamassa and Mayer up there. Who were the 2 other unnecessarily universally hated guitar players that you put up there? Mount Rushmore.
Well, that's a better question than who are the 4 best guitar players.
Right.
Who are the 4 most hated, really good guitar players?
Yeah.
I like it.
I still try to put a glass half full, most universally unnecessarily hated. I'll wait for the people to respond. We could kind of go on to something else, but see if everybody says that.
Oh, and then, on this clip, too. So, I mean, like, pay attention to what's happening, right? Did you see who's sitting behind the keyboard?
I did not.
It's Wyman, right? The guy that played keys. That's his name, right? I had it earlier today. It popped, like, all of a sudden brain farted. Just the guy played with toured with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Is it Bill Wyman? Bill Wyman? Somebody correct me down there.
I think Bill Wyman's Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
maybe.
What am I thinking? What's his name? What's the keyboard player's name that toured with Stevie? But he's on stage. He's sitting over there. I saw him earlier. Like, I saw him earlier. I'm like, oh, that's so and so. And now that we're doing a live show, I look at it and I'm like, I have no idea who it is. Let's see if we can. Let's scroll in to see if we can get his picture in there. But I mean, it's Stevie's keyboard player out there.
Couple things from the chat. Brian Landreth has put in his ballot and the nomination for Yngwie. Shirt up, Yngwie. Back a little bit of comment. Back a little bit further. Where to go? Pete Hickson. No, who said about Phil Kagi and?
He said Tommy and his brother Phil together. What? Just wow.
Yeah, Phil Kagi. I mean, 2 people on the acoustic guitar that will blow your mind. Phil Kagi as well. I think the one clip we played of him so far was electric. But yeah, his alternate tuning, looping, the speed in which Phil Kagi can play. They're both very interesting to see live on just an acoustic.
I mean, it is interesting because Bonamassa's come close a couple times. I've never gone to see him. I don't own any of his CDs. I've watched tons of clips of him playing online. So he's not somebody who I've like dove into. Like, oh man, it's not like my Warren Haynes collection of like different things that he's played on and how many times I've gone to see him play and stuff like that. John Mayer, not a huge fan of his early on. In fact, do you remember the he did a Crossroads festival, like one of the early ones? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's the clip I should pull up. And I don't want to be mean, but like he had this guitar face thing going on, like this jerky head thing going on, like he was trying to have a bowel movement or something while he was playing. And we all make stupid guitar. Like if you don't, like Carlos Santana would say, if you're not making stupid guitar faces, you're not playing guitar. But it was to a point where like I couldn't watch him, and like it was a distraction from what he was playing. He's been out on the tour with the Dead for a while, who I love, and when they first signed him up, I probably said this already. When they first signed him up, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like what? John Mayer with the Dead? Like he's gonna fill the Jerry role? He's excellent now. He's doing a great job. Like whether you like the Dead or not, just go look up Dead and Company and just watch a couple solos of John Mayer playing with those guys. It's crazy.
Well, it's funny too. Like if you're gonna go down a little rabbit hole, find the pictures of guitarists' faces, but they've superimposed a giant slug instead of a guitar in their hands. Yeah. So Mayer's faces go right along with that perfectly.
Yes. That's a great meme if you haven't seen it.
Well, those are great.
Nobody else has given us anybody for the route.
Oh, Brian Landreth is.
Well, Brian's given us Yngwie, Richie Skaggs, and Robbie Robinson.
I don't know. I think Brody just jumped in a car and is driving to Arkansas now because Ricky Skaggs, great player, many different genres, and is really good friends with Brody's buddy Gordon Kennedy. So if you see like a tannish SUV show up in your driveway,
or Harley.
Yeah, that's true. Just lay low. He means well. Don't treat him like an armadillo. Yeah, Yngwie, I got a friend who we've talked about maybe having on the show. He loves Yngwie. Like, a lot of his stuff is inspired by Yngwie, but he's not a super big Yngwie fan now. Like, Yngwie actually came and played. I meant to say this to Dave Weiner yesterday. There's the Chameleon Club in Lancaster that I saw Steve Vai play. It's a small club, and Yngwie was coming, and my friend's like, "Nope, he's jumped the shark. That ship has sailed." So you might have two people up there chiseling Yngwie's face on the Mount Rushmore.
You know, I don't know enough to put his face up there. Like, he's not enough on the radar. Like, I know, again, it's that, and I don't know if it's like I never got into it because there's just no way. It's not something I can aspire to do because I know I'll never be able to play that fast. Or if it's just, I had a roommate in college that loved all that, was big into Steve Vai and big into, you know, all that kind of stuff, that real fast smoking guitar playing stuff. And it just wasn't it wasn't my thing. Nothing against it. I mean, it's like when my son was listening to screamo music. Yeah, you listen to the drum track to what he was listening to. The drummer is amazing. You listen to the guitar player is amazing. You listen to the bass players. This should be amazing. Then the guy starts screamoing over top of it, and you're like, well,
the genre of all the non-breastfed children. Yeah, Brian, that's interesting. I'd never even heard of scallop frets before Yngwie. I'd be curious. I've never gone down that because I don't care that much about it, but I'm curious to know the genesis of scallop frets. It's wild. Jason's got a guitar with like 5 scallop frets.
Right, that Les Paul has a couple scallop frets on the top end of it.
That's just wild.
And I haven't played it enough. In fact, the Les Paul is still. No, it's not. It for weeks it was leaning up against the amps behind me, and now it's moved to the other side of the room. Since that day we opened it for that stream we had Hack on, it's moved one time, but it's not been. I can't bring myself to start loving that guitar because I don't know what's going to happen to it.
That's right. That's why farmers don't name their livestock, because at some point it might not be around all of a sudden.
So yeah, I don't know.
I'm good.
The Bonamassa thing, I don't get it. I think he's mildly entertaining when he does his little, Instagram posts about Nerdville, and
yes, right. Which that came to a conclusion, unfortunately.
Appreciate the guitar collection and amp collection and stuff that he has, and I appreciate his drive to want to preserve it. I will say this. There was a conversation going on about him online the other day, and I thought it was kind of it met with something that you and I were talking about months ago in a situation that happened at Messiah College. I think that you were working at. Not that we need to bring that situation up, but it was somebody was blasting him for appropriating the cultural. A culture that wasn't his. It's basically saying he's a middle-aged white guy and has no right to play the blues because that's cultural appropriation. And I'm like going, Johnny Winter? Like...
He wasn't just white. He was an albino. I mean, that's a whole nother level of whiteness.
Well, and then, not even Johnny Winter. I'm thinking B.B. King, Buddy Guy, Muddy... All those guys played and had relationships with white guys that played. It was such a silly,
right?
I don't know. Maybe it's territory that you don't want to get. We wouldn't want to get into because we don't want to offend anybody. But on the other hand, I'm just like, man, they're just playing. They're making music. Somebody has to keep making it,
right?
Or that culture is not going to have it anymore because it's going away.
Yeah, it's not like they're doing Weird Al Yankovic versions of the songs. They're paying homage to those songs because they're so great, and the whole genre is like the roots of so much stuff. But anyway, yeah.
I just don't listen to hate. Yeah, I like that. I just don't listen to hate. Yeah, I mean, like, if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't.
Yeah, I can appreciate a lot of that stuff, right? I mean, I am the least shredder that you will ever meet, but I'm enamored by fast playing. In case you can't tell from the clips that you can tell who's picked the clip, right? When we were doing it, Jason's got the really like bluesy, earthy. Not that those guys can't take a moment and get somewhere, right? And then I'm like, who's the guy that can play super fast? And I'll find the third turnaround in the solo and find the part that they're playing the most ridiculous thing, and we'll show that. I'm just enamored by it because I can't do it. So I can appreciate what it takes to. A good friend of mine who may or may not be on the chat refers to it a little bit like gymnastics, but like if they can pull it off, the Russian judge, I'm still going to give him a 10. But I can't do it. I can appreciate it. I can only take it in smaller doses sometimes because after a while you just become numb to it. But yes, I can appreciate a lot of different styles that I don't play. Matter of fact, maybe the person I'm going to feature tomorrow is a crazy fast player too.
Looks like why Bosco was like the perfect guest for us because he had like your fast like rip and shredded thing, and then he also has like the slow bluesy kind of slides and like laid back. You know, he goes between those so easily.
And Dave Weiner to an extent too, right? I mean, a guy that can go on stage with vibe, but yet all that bluesy stuff. Like when he was talking about, I like these Friedmans, and this is the amount of gain I use, and they're on one, but the whole, you know, when he was doing that, it just reminded me of. Conversations a little bit like you and I've had and Brody and I've had. I can take any guitar and make it sound exactly the same as something else. Like all my stuff eventually starts to sound the same. But it was really cool to watch Dave Weiner say, I like this amp and I like to really juice the gain, but I want the character and the clarity of the guitar to come out.
You know, if you think about we got hit for this is hysterical, right? We got hit for a copyright infringement because we played that Monument Shine clip with the guy in it that we had on the show.
I didn't know that.
That's muted now. If you go back and watch it, but go out and watch that Monument Shine song. There's so many. I wanted to mention it to him, and it got away from me because while I was thinking about it, there was something else. You guys told me about something else that got away. There's one note in that solo. One note that absolutely kills. Like, there's a lot of notes that kill, but there's like one note, like he's playing this solo. There's some fast, there's some more. There's so many different kind of styles in there. There's so many different chordal things he plays in that solo. There's so much I love about that solo, but there's one note where he's like, if you go back and watch it, where he's like climbing up and he's pretty high. Right, and I don't know if this ever happened. Maybe I'm the only guitar player this happens to, but you're in a jam, you're on stage, you're playing, everything's cranking, and you're working through your solo, and you get up high, and it's like, man, I need a place to go. I need that one last place to go to kind of wrap this up, and I don't know where it is. You know, like it's just not there. You know, I don't know how to find it, or I've already got to where I thought I should be. Where's the next place? He hits that note in that solo. There's like he's working up, and you're like, "Oh, this is great! It's over." And then there's that one last step. We go, "Oh my gosh, that was it! That was the note." He hit that the first time I was watching. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I've wanted to do that so many times, and I've missed it so many times, and he just killed it.
Well, take Jason's advice, but take it a step further. Go watch the 37-minute version of that because Dave breaks it down. Like, he doesn't show you the playing, but he stops and starts a lot, and he talks about the tension of something, like building up to that tension, and then there's that release, and then that usually releases back to the singer. So it's kind of what you're talking about. He talks about those types of things and those elements in his soloing and
the note that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He did talk about he does the whole like harmonic. He's bending and he hits the harmonic, and he did a visual effect with that because I guess Steve Vai edits a lot of his own videos, and there's some things that Steve does with like the lighting will flash or something, and Dave talks about all that kind of stuff because he talks about what it took for him to film that and how he set it all up, and yeah, so that was good. But I'll hit Terry Himes here real quick. Yeah, Joe Bonamassa did play with B.B. King when he was really young. I mean, he was out playing and sharing stage with people when he was like 12 or 13. So
and it's weird because we've had a couple of those. Joe, Derek, Johnny Lang, you know, guys that were out really young sharing the stage with those guys. And they've all had pretty good careers. It's interesting to see where.
Right. Yeah, and oh my gosh, I want to just forget his name. It's terrible. It'll come back to me. Must be one of those days. It's a little rainy, overcast day here where we are. The brain's a little foggy. It'll come to me, and I'll just blurt it out awkwardly.
Yeah.
Started out super young.
So Brian said, grew up in the epicenter of that culture, and there was some resentment from some, but once it became became apparent that they were loving it and trying not to steal it was fine. Yeah, I mean, those guys so the Blues Society of Central Pennsylvania, they started a thing called the Mississippi Railroad, where they were bringing players from Mississippi up for like an event every year called the Mississippi Railroad. And they would pay to bring those guys up, fly them up, or Dale Wise that owns Dale's Drum Shop and used to play with Big Jack Johnson and plays with a lot of those guys down there. Would drive down and pick them up and bring them up. And they'd put on a big event for them. And, you know, there was a lot of connection between people up here and people in Mississippi. There's a juke joint in Clarksdale called Red's Juke Joint. That a lot of those guys would go down and hang out. Everybody had, I have a Red's Juke Joint shirt. I've never been there, but I have one of the shirts. Somebody brought me a shirt back once. You know, it was never a cultural thing.
Right.
It was a love of the music thing, you know? So.
Yeah, for sure. I was thinking of Eric Gales. Eric Gales started when he was super young as well. That guy's a freak of nature. I have never seen him play live, but I want to, and he's out a lot now, so maybe when this is all cleared up, he's worth the drive. He is an amalgamation of styles. It's crazy. Super soulful, can sing, but yeah,
he has a real presence on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you watch him play with other people, he's one of those guys that has like an intimidating presence.
But yet fun to be around.
You know what I mean, though? Like when he's playing, he is like kind of an intimidating, like, hey, look at this kind of presence. When I've seen him playing with other guys, like there's YouTube where he's playing with other guys. There's a local guy, a band called Bushmaster or something, and he kind of is the same thing, and he would. Can we tell a story?
I don't know it. You're gonna. I can't censor you because I don't know what you're gonna say.
So I went out.
Sorry,
I've gone out to see him play plenty of times. He's a great guitar player. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. Sometimes blues bands will have people sit in, and I'm convinced that there was a few blues bands that would have people sit in, but purposely set them up not to be. I don't want to say not to be successful, but
sort of like William Hung in the first season of American Idol.
Would set them up to be successful, but not to be too successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They'd get them up to play with the band. They wouldn't turn it into a train wreck. It wouldn't be, you wouldn't call out a shuffle and they'd give you a scuffle. It would be, they would lock the beat down. It never was to keep them too. I'll give you an example because I used to do the same thing a little bit. Because I play with my volume knob, my amp would be cranked, and my overdrive pedal would be on all the time. But playing rhythm guitar, I wouldn't roll my overdrive pedal up, my volume all the way up. A lot of guys play like you play, you roll the volume all the way up, right? So if I was going to ask you to come up and sit in, I might turn the overdrive pedal off before I hand you the guitar so you don't go right into like full bore like solo sound. And so they would kind of do stuff like that, like, well, whatever. And so I go to see Bushmaster this one time. He's a great guy, and I don't know if there's any truth to what I'm saying, but he asked me, he would like hand you his guitar. He'd be like doing a big solo walk around the bar, hand you his guitar. And so the one time he hands me his guitar. Now he was rip roaring through the solo. I get the guitar and there's like nothing there. And I don't know if he turned the overdrive pedal off before he handed it to. I don't know what he did, how he did it. But I'm like, what's coming out of this guitar when I'm playing it is not what's coming out of this guitar when he was playing it. So I go to see him a second time, and he hands me the guitar. And this time I know what's coming, right? Like I'm going to start to play and it's not going to be what he was playing. So I literally, and you're sitting there like it was a small club. You're sitting at one of the tables, the edge of the seat. He hands you the guitar. He hands me the guitar. I looked at his band. I went, "Bring it down." And the band dropped it down like Buddy Guy to nothing, right? And then I played. And then I handed the guitar back. He probably wouldn't remember this. After the show, he comes over. He's like, "Now I see what you did there, man. That was nice. That was nice. I see what you did. I know what you did there."
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny, but I don't even know why we got into that. But it was a good night. It was a fun night. Anyway, just not making it easy.
Yeah, that's interesting that he would actually like hand the guitar.
Yeah, he would. But a lot of those that Brian plays out and stuff. He probably knows, like in that blues scene, because of the blues jam and stuff. A lot of people go. They know who plays. They know who plays in other bands, and people in the crowd love when somebody else, sits in or whatever. So a lot of those guys would do that a lot. It takes it's an interesting experience to get up and sit in with somebody else's band and play their rig when you don't know their rig.
Yeah, for sure.
But all great artists have an identifiable style. I do not think if you listen to Bonamassa's site Unseen that you would know it's him. His tunes are all instantly forgettable too. There might be some fairness to that. Well,
and maybe part of the reason I like Bonamassa is because, I hear those sort of really identifiable Eric Johnson licks come out sometimes, right? Like, so I hear the wink and a nod to other guitarists that I like.
But if you hear Derek Trucks play or BB King play or Buddy Guy play or
right,
like we'll turn on the radio in the car, and I can normally call like Freddie King or Albert King or whoever it is coming on, Albert Collins, whoever it is coming on before that's a pretty fair statement by Paul, because I do not know that if you played a Bonamassa tune for me that I would immediately go, "Oh, that's Joe's tune." That's a good point. Very nice, Paul. Brian said he's had good and bad experiences playing with people like that. Yes, like the sit-in thing. I've had good sit-ins with bands, and I've had bad sit-ins with bands.
Right.
The last time I sat in with a group, it was an acoustic thing. And it was, Pat knows. It was not for me. It was a bass and an acoustic guitar, and they handed me one of the acoustic. I think they might have had two acoustic guitars and handed me one to sit in, and it was a struggle. And I had to do it because I think they thought I was being like a snot for not wanting to sit in. It wasn't because I didn't want to sit in with them. It was because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play.
It wasn't false humility. It was true uncomfortableness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It was a true like, this is good.
You're like, do you have a 12-string tuned down a half step? I can be SRV and unplugged. No, you don't have that. I'll wait for the next one.
So,
yeah. I was going to say 40 minutes into the show, we can do guitar of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did we'll get to it. So here is my, this is a 1991 CE24 old, you figure after 40 shows, I'd figure out which old signature. They changed the signature at one point, but like the original signature, rosewood neck. Of course, like everything else I have, no birds, but some really nice abalone dots. Really nice sunburst.
That one.
I really like this guitar. This was the first PRS that I got. It is, though, interestingly enough, it is B stock. I don't know if you can see that. B is up here.
No, you can't see it. It's washed out by the light.
Good that it's not a B stock. Well, B stock, what? There was either something slightly wrong with it or there was an artist loaner. I just choose to believe it was an artist loaner to some great artist. Wide, thin neck profile on this one. Obviously, you saw the maple cap, the binding. There's the back plate. No phone number engraved into it. And I took this off really quick because I thought that I had Paul's signature on all of my back plates, but for some reason I don't for this, so I need to do that because I have other ones that have a back plate. I've met him a couple times at clinics and different things, and he's been nice enough to sign them, but somehow this one got missed. But I really like the top on this one. It's got one thing that is interesting that I don't know if this is part of the situation is the tremolo. You can see that the middle 4 screws are not in there. They were not in there when I got them. I don't know if that's part of the B stock situation. I really don't know. But HFS bass and treble pickups. Oh my gosh, this thing is great. It's very different. The one thing I will say is we've talked before, have several PRSs, but every one of them is different. Everyone has different pickups, probably different neck shapes. But this one, it's a beast. It's super easy to play. If I were a shredder, this one would be shred-tastic because of the neck profile. Some hot pickups. But my first PRS, love it.
Those 5-way rotary switches. I played that guitar, and the thing that shocked me is it's backwards from what you think. Right? Because if you roll it, that's the back pickup, and then if you roll it the other way.
Right. If you twist it all the way forward, you'd think you'd be moving up. But you don't. You twist it forward and you're back on the bridge. So it's a 5-way like a Strat for those of you who haven't played a PRS with a rotary. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same as a Strat as far as what it does to these pickups, which, I found some original paperwork for. This is a CE24. I have another one that's I always refer to it as a custom 24, but I guess maybe it's a standard 24. It's a set neck and but I found I didn't realize it had the original paperwork in it. So it kind of outlined the 5-way rotary, which I'm looking at the case and I'm not going to go over and dig it out. But maybe someday I'll look at that to see when your position 1, obviously we know is the bridge. Position 5 is the neck, but it breaks out the other 3 positions in which part of the 2 pickups it's tapping into. But so again, B stock, all original, missing 4 screws. I feel like I might have had to have the nut replaced at some point. But I don't know. I have to look to see if they've really changed it much. But one of the knocks on the PRSs was there's just like no angle to the headstock. But that does not keep this guitar from being very resonant and plays like a champ. Love it.
I'd be surprised if you hadn't changed that. I think I've changed a nut on my McCarty like 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah, again, we talk about this all the time. Something's going to be modified or changed. The original pieces, parts are in the case. I want to say it's a nut on this one. I had to replace a tuner on one of the others. So it's the locking tuners with the wings. This one, if you do it right, which I never do it, the wings come out kind of uniform. For me here, the high E and low E are not where they should be, but I didn't string it, so I can't complain.
Well, is that because I broke the string on the high E and put the high E back on?
No, because I thought you played the black one that you broke the string on.
Okay. Is the black one a 5-way rotary too?
Yep. Because that was my second one. So this is a 91. That one's a 95, and they still had the 5-way rotary and were made in the original factory before he moved to Stevensville.
So we bought all of our guitars when we were young. People.
Well, yeah, and even when I bought them,
we bought them all when we were young, and they were used back then. That's when they're that old.
Yeah, right. This is a 91, and I probably, bought it in the probably late 90s. And I have it's there at the house over at Jason's house. The single cut I bought wasn't very old, like at all. And I just realized that the black one in the case has all the case candy. I didn't realize that. I thought the case candy I only had for my hollow body, but it had the original receipt from Ray's music in there, what the person paid for it, and had it had the hang tag. And
I think the receipt for my McCarty is in. I saw that not too long ago. I think that might be in the case for. I never used the cases. The cases are buried in the basement.
Right.
They're in the midget mansion.
Yes.
You can see it right there, that little door. The midget mansion.
That's where all the magic happens.
The dwarf dungeon, the hobbit habitat, the
Yeah. So anyway, I love that guitar. Super low profile, thin body, thin neck. But I've got other PRSs that have more of a thicker baseballish kind of neck, and have some with. I think this is the only one that has a trim. The other ones are all stop tail pieces. That's not true. My EG that I need to get back from Woodshed that I'll feature sometime is also trim.
I know why the screws are missing, because if you ever try to adjust the bridge and try to get the notches lined up, it's nearly impossible. So just take out the center 4 out, and the screws have notches.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to Brian's point, if I look at the screw holes, they are definitely not, you're not going to be able to see it, but they're definitely not in the center. You should be able to see some wood in the top part near the pickup. So they're not perfectly lined up, if that makes sense. If you see what I'm saying there, you can see the wood towards the pickup. That those would not go straight in. So, I mean, I've had it worked on by Randall, who owned Triple R, who I bought it from. Chris has worked on it as well, and they've just nobody's ever had a concern with those missing. So I don't know, again, if that's part of the lore of the B-Sock. I'm really not sure. I've never sent, an email to PRS customer service or whatever that email is called, asking what they can tell me about the guitar. Maybe I will someday. But that's the thing, right? Like, we've talked about it before. Jason he loves the McCarty pickups. I've got nothing with McCarty pickups. I don't dislike McCarty because all of my PRSs are pre-owned. But I've managed to have several PRSs all with different pickups. But I'm missing the McCarty in my collection, and Jason's got it in spades, and they sound great. So, anyway.
According to us.
Yes. Brody was asking the question, has anybody been following Neil Sean on social media lately? Because, again, we've talked with several of our guests that people are just itching to play, itching to connect with people, and I think Neil Sean has been going live a lot or doing clips, and he's a big PRS guy these days. I don't want to steal Brody's thunder. Brody was texting me back and forth. It's kind of the same thing I said. You could give me any one of my PRSs, I'll plug it in, play it through the same amp, same pedal board, and you might hear subtle differences in the guitars because tend to make every guitar sound like it's a little bit like what Dave Weiner was saying yesterday. What sound do you hear in your head? Because that's what you want to come out. I'm not saying I've achieved my tone by any means, but I'm saying that sound that I like to hear, heavily saturated, long delay, I tend to set everything to sound that way. So part of what Brody was saying is like Neil Sean's got quite the guitar collection, but ends up sounding very much the same with every guitar that he plays.
There's people that have said that, well, Dave said that he took the McCarty pickups out of his McCarty. He didn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're what I gigged with the whole time that I was gigging and working as, I wouldn't say as a musician, but as a guy playing as a local guy. They're what I used. And I think, I mean, whether they're the best pickups in the world or not, they're what I use. They're what I like. I can plug that guitar into just about any amp with my direct drive and my and some kind of delay pedal and be happy as a clam, right? Like,
yeah, and not to put you on the spot, but like, so there were Ted McCarty, who was with Gibson, who Paul worked with very closely on those models. I'm guessing they're probably more of a low output kind of pickup, more of a vintage feel to them. Is that probably right?
McCarty was the goal, my understanding, the goal of the McCarty was to model it after the guitar that Dwayne Allman played live at the Fillmore. That tone. So they're going for that vintage Les Paul sound.
Right.
And Ted McCarty, like he can't argue with the fact that he's the guy that did, pretty much all the Les Paul stuff in that era. So, like, it's not a Les Paul, it's a Paul Reed Smith, but it was kind of designed with the guy that designed the Les Pauls, and it was designed to go after that tone of a Les Paul. And so, yeah, I would say they're low output. That's what we were talking about. Hack and I were talking about that Les Paul on his show. I was on his live stream the other day. He has that same Les Paul that I have, the 60s
classic. No, right?
Yeah, the 60s. I always forget what it is. It's the 60s classic with the snot green pickup on it. But the pickups, the original pickups in that were really, really hot. And I replaced them with Thornbuckers, and I used Thornbuckers because they were supposed to be kind of a lower output. Kind of like, I actually asked the PRS group, I'm like, if you were going to put pickups in and wanted something like McCarty's, what would you get? And that was one of the suggestions.
Right.
But I like that Honeyburst, though.
So I say that to say, I have, those are HFS, right? Which stands for hot, fat, and screaming, right? So that's, these are not going to qualify as low output pickups. My black one has Dragon pickups in it, which I don't think are low output pickups. My single cut, which may be behind Jason somewhere, is like the PRS 7, so maybe more lower output. My original EG has Lindy Fralin dominoes in it, so kind of not even, they're single coilish. And then what am I forgetting? And then my single cut has Starlas in it. So I don't have anything that might be truly that vintage humbucker low output. I've never really done a lot of research on what the PRS 7s are in the single cut, but yeah. So I guess what I'm just saying is, like, I feel like I want more PRSs, but I need to get one that has a McCarty, because I played Jason's red one, his number one, and then his hollow body that hangs on the wall over there is pretty magical. So
Jack Rabbit's in the house. Hey, Jack. Brian said, "Do you like the Thornbucker?" You can't say yes or no. You can't say yes or no. Do I like the Thornbucker? Here's the problem, Brian. I really struggle with Les Paul. I really do, because first of all, the two volumes and the two-tone things. I'm so used to the PRS with one volume, one tone on the three-way toggle that I struggle with that. So, and then the other thing is, and I have replaced the electronics in that guitar. Replace the pickups, replace the pots, trying to get more like a PR. And what I should have done, and what I probably should do, and maybe I have time to do it now, is just order some PRS pots and put it in there. I've replaced the pots at least once on it, and I still can't get the sweep that I get on the PRS, the taper. And so it cuts out. You can turn the volume knob less than a quarter of a turn probably, with nothing, and then it pops on, and then the sweep from when it pops on to full is not as nice as the sweep on the PRS, and so it really makes it. It sounds so stupid. Christelle Porter laughs at me because I'm so picky about it. It makes it hard for me because I'm so used to playing with the overdrive pedal on and rolling the volume back to clean up. And when I roll the volume back, it doesn't hit it quite right. And when I go all the way off and try to come up just a little bit, there's nothing there. And then I overcount. And it frustrates me. And I probably haven't played the guitar near as much as I would if I would just like probably should go on PRS's website. And this is probably really sacrilegious. I would almost like to buy just one PRS volume pot and wire it so just the upper volume pot works with a 3-way toggle and just take out. Because I know you get in that middle position and you do different things with the knobs, and that's the mat. So do I like the Thornbuckers? Yeah, when I've used them, they sound really good, but I probably haven't spent enough time with it that I would be like, yeah, definitely go buy them, or I don't want to give an opinion on them, although I'm not disappointed I put them in. If that makes sense.
Well, we're trying to leave the door open for Pete Thorne to come on the show, too. So,
which didn't Ben Combs just had Pete Thorne on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we try not to. Although
we'll count to 10, Mississippi, before we ask.
Right. I mean, we did have Lawrence Petros on, and I know, Ben and Hack and everybody else has had him on, but
with good reason. It was really nice meeting him. Really nice guy.
Yeah.
And quite the accomplished player himself, and amps and pedals. So.
Yeah, it was cool. He's thinking about putting one in his Strat. Yeah, I can't. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about it. You should put a Texas Twisted Telly in there, man.
Yeah, I hear that's all the rage. That's what we were told.
I hear they're very Strat-like. Update on that. That Chris has it. Chris has the Telly, has the pickups, has the Bigsby. We're just waiting to hear from him that it's done. I think it might take a couple days. I mean, he's got work to do, and we don't want to jump the line.
Right.
Actually, we do, but we're not going to ask him to do that.
Right.
So, wow, look at us at 56 minutes and 58 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, a show about nothing.
That's right. Although I think we...
Should we send a message to Joe Bonamassa and ask him to come on?
Well, you already sent one to one of your other guys you like, so...
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I think this is probably the day that we might have delved into more opinions than usual. So, but I think we, there's our opinions without being mean or catty to anybody. But as much as we're very different from each other, but we're also we like what we like, but we don't have to trash what we don't like to talk about it. So, but we
I'll just finish out by saying, like, how do people trash John May, or how do people trash Joe Bonamassa? People that just sit back and just trash talk these guys
right
from their keyboard. Just keep in mind, they're doing that, trash talking them from their keyboard, while those guys are standing in front of full auditoriums and stadiums, making a living and collecting all the gear they wish they had. It's
yeah, I saw, to that point, saw Joe Bonamassa at Radio City in New York. It was really cool.
It was a good show, probably, right?
Yeah, I saw him at the Hershey Theater here, and I saw him at the Benedum out in Pittsburgh. So I've seen him in 3 really monumental theaters, and the whole experience was great.
And I've seen Joe on stage and videos with just about every guitar player that I really...
Right. I think eventually, people might start to accept them when the people that they like are seen with them or say things about them. Because then at some point they're like, well, what can I say? Because my idol said X about one of those 2 guys in a flattering light. And, it's kind of like, it's almost like vetting. You have to vet them out through one of your other influences or idols. But, so...
Stuart said those guys probably pee a little, mess up everything they play when they record. I thought he was talking about us at first, because it's kind of true.
Yeah, that's right.
You turn the camera. You want an interesting experiment? Go turn the camera on and plan to post it. Like, all of a sudden, everything is like, oh, geez. But no, I get what you're saying. Like, I just don't. Where does that venom come from? Like, where do people? Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like them. Yeah, right. I mean, you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to watch. Why do people watch a YouTube video watch the whole YouTube video of something only so they can sit there and trash it. Like, move on. Go find something you like that you have something positive to say about. I mean, please. Although we kind of like the we kind of like the trolls from time to time too.
Yeah, they can be fun. It's kind of like sometimes that reminds me of that old Saturday Night Live skit, like way back when like Dana Carvey was on it, and it would be like they'd go in the refrigerator and pull out some rotten meat, and like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Smell this, and the other person would be like, I don't want to smell it. And before they know it, they're smelling it, and then they're passing it on to the next person to smell it, and it's just like you just can't get away from it sometimes.
It's just throwing it away.
Right.
I don't know. What's Paul talking about? He has a few guitars with the pearly one. The pearly one of the pearlies? Not from Billy himself? Are we talking pickup still?
Like Pearly Gates, maybe? I don't know. Oh, got from Billy himself.
So, yeah, I mean, we're talking Billy Gibson's and...
Yeah, Brad Miller was talking about like a Lone Star Strat come stock with, I think he probably like a humbucker in the bridge, I guess, probably.
Oh, yeah. Because Brian was talking about putting a humbucker in the bridge.
Right.
That's a whole rabbit hole I've never gone down. Humbucker and a Strat.
Well, you know, it's funny. I thought I had lied when you and I got off the air the other day, and I was talking about that. What did I show? My Strat, I think, that has the S1 switching. And I said, oh, I like to engage the S1 in the bridge because it fattens it up. And then I'm like, well, wait a second. After I got off the thing, I'm like, well, doesn't it just part of the S1, the pickups then run in series instead of parallel? But when we got off of the show, I plugged the guitar in and played, and there definitely is a tonal difference even in the bridge on S1 switching systems that does kind of fatten it up a little bit, because that's the thing, both with a bridge pickup in a Tele and a bridge pickup in a Strat, those single coils can be really bitey sometimes. So I understand the concept of wanting a full humbucker in the bridge.
John Mayer is the Tom Brady of guitar.
Tom Brady's a whole nother. That's true. That's probably a true statement.
You'll have to explain that one to me.
I feel like Tom Brady has given people more reasons to not like him than John Mayer. I mean, just basically successful guys, kind of the pinnacle of their career, one of the better people to do what they do. So that kind of brings its own level of dislike. I mean, Tom Brady's a good-looking guy, great athlete, married to a supermodel, so it's kind of easy to sling some hate towards them. So I get that analogy for sure.
You got to go watch John play with Dead and Company. Maybe that would be my next clip, was John Mayer playing with Dead and Company.
Because
they're really good.
It's funny. My son is a huge John Mayer fan. Yes, I tried to raise him right. Just kidding. But he's a huge John Mayer fan, and he got to see Dead and Company with his sister out in San Francisco. And he wasn't sure how he was going to feel about it, because John Mayer's not playing any John Mayer's music at Dead and Company. But I guess when John Mayer came out and started to play, my son was kind of awestruck, and I think got that whole vibe from John Mayer, regardless if John Mayer was playing his stuff or somebody else's. He just exudes that stuff, right? Like, I think there's, I don't know. I mean, we're past an hour already, but the first thing that John Mayer did for me that I was like, really, bro, seriously, was when he played with Double Trouble. Like, he actually played with them. And he kind of held his own, right? It's kind of brave to take on Stevie, and his vibrato was very different at times than Stevie's, but like, he covered some ground with those guys and really held his own. So that's kind of like, I thought it was a bold move, and I saw things that certainly weren't Stevie, but I was just like, wow, this guy can play. This guy's really interested in the roots. And again, I look at it as another guy who wants to carry on the legacy of the blues, right? And point back to the people that influenced him. So anyway. Someone said, I thought we were talking about the Brady Bunch. Marsha.
Oh, all right. Well, I think that about takes us to where we need to be.
That's right. Beyond.
So full as well. I'm not announcing any guests today because I mean, there's still feelers out there. There's still people out there that have said yes, they're going to be on the show. If they come on the show, it will be a great time. There's that fine line between bugging people, and we try to tread very carefully on that. So we will take a yes and we'll give them the information. And if it takes them 2 weeks to get back to us, it takes us 2 weeks to get back to us. You try not to hound people.
Right.
But I mean, for some people, the invitation's there, like Paul's buddy, the invitation's there. So hopefully we'll hear from him. And I think with that.
Yep. With that, I'm PJ on behalf of the Beard, reminding you, no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear.